Good morning, everybody. It's Friday morning here in Las Vegas, and we're looking at about 115 degrees here today. I'm joined by Joe Mack from New York City. Joe, I know it's not as hot there, but I guarantee you it's more humid.
It's been a bit of a warm week. It's cooled down a little bit. We had some sports heating up, obviously, with the NBA draft here last night, but no, we don't have 115 degrees today, so that's nice.
Thank God for that. Yeah, baseball's heating up. The NBA draft, a couple trades. You got some feelings on the what happened last night in the NBA? It was kind of confusing to me what some of the people did, but maybe you have a good handle on it.
Yeah, I do. A few little points. I wrote a column late last night after all the dust had settled and discussed a few things, and you and I were just talking about it for a moment before we got on the air to kind of get to the top of the draft. I mean, the first pick, DeAndre Ayton for the Suns, everyone now is calling it, including myself, kind of a safe pick. I really wonder if the guy is any kind of franchise changer. I don't think he is. But to be fair, I just was looking up last year's draft, Jim, and in the first round, I won't go down all the names, obviously, but I would dare to say that out of the 30 picks last year in round one, maybe 4 guys were impact players last year, including, of course, Donovan Mitchell, who got a lot of airtime last night, the Utah Jazz player who was picked 13th. So really, I mean, very few guys last year. I know their careers have a long way to go, but less than a handful of guys last year really made an impact. I wonder if Ayton is even going to be a big impact player right off the bat for the Suns, but I think he'll be a decent pro. But, you know, I tell you what, I hate it all the time whenever I hear in any sport that they have to question a guy's, quote, motive, because, you know, I mean, you don't want to be picking a guy number one and then saying, is he going to take nights off? Is he going to take halves off? You know, come on, the guy's the first pick. He should be bound and determined to play his best and to play hard every night. But I guess we'll find out. The jury is going to be out on Ayton. But the guy we were talking about prior to going on the air here is the Slovenian kid, Donic, who was picked third overall by Atlanta and then traded moments later down to the 5th pick. So he winds up in Dallas, and what I really don't understand, Jim, is number one, I saw it on more than one analyst or reporter last night, switching back between ESPN's coverage and the NBA Network. There were a few guys saying that he was flat out the best player in this draft. Well, if that's the case, and okay, if Phoenix wants to address what they feel is a need at center and take a local kid and whatnot, and if the Kings are in love with Marvin Bagley III, who's probably going to be a 20-point per night guy for the Kings in his career, you know, then you got the Slovenian kid dropping down to 3. So in other words, it falls right on the lap of the Atlanta Hawks. And look, they don't want him. They don't need him. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in basketball last year, one of the most boring teams the last couple of years. And they deal off the guy to get Trae Young, who everyone feels like is going to be another Steph Curry, but I wouldn't hold my breath. And then you get what they call a protected first-round pick next year. But those first-round picks in the NBA, they get tossed around left and right. Every other year, teams are buying or selling out of the first round. So anyway, what I don't get is if you got this kid, this 19-year-old Doncic, why not just keep him? I mean, he felt he at 3. It reminded me very much, Jim, of the NFL draft 2 months ago. The New York Jets, they had traded up in the weeks before, got up to the number 3 spot. They had their fingers crossed that they were going to get one of those named quarterbacks, and boom, USC Sam Darnold literally fell into the Jets' lap, and the Jets scooped them up as fast as they could. I don't understand why the Hawks wouldn't just sit tight and keep Doncic if he's as good as everybody says. And as you were saying, we've watched, you know, the highlights. We're not there to see these games over in Europe, but the kid supposedly has all the tools. He's very mature for a 19-year-old. I don't understand the thinking where if he falls to you at 3, can you just take him and not play around here and make all these other moves? But I think we've seen that with the NBA. These first-round trades and these crazy things, I don't know. Some of them don't make sense. I mean, obviously, the human interest story for the night was the Villanova kid Bridges getting picked by the team. The team that is in his backyard. His mom is all excited. She works for the company that runs the Sixers. And then, like 15 minutes later, in what apparently, from what I'm reading and hearing, is a lot of confusion, he gets turned into some back room. Everyone puts on a Phoenix Suns hat, and presto, he's part of the Phoenix Suns. So much for that. So much for that great heart-rendering story. He winds up not staying in his own neighborhood. So anyway, we had a lot of those trades, a lot of the stuff. Really, I agree with you, Jim. A lot of the stuff in the NBA, and it happens every year in the draft. A lot of stuff really doesn't make sense to me. To me, if you're a bad team, like we just said with the Hawks, just sit there. Take your guy. If you're not going to trade it for extra parts, just take the best guy you can get and go from there instead of dealing around or whatever. I mean, if the Hawks wind up seeing that Doncic winds up having a big-time career with Dallas, and Trae Young is, a marginal player, which is possible. I mean, he's a guy who loves to throw 30-footers. Well, if he shoots, 30% in the NBA from three, he's not going to be any Steph Curry. So I think it was a mistake by the Hawks there. They should have sat tight, and I think a few other teams probably should have sat tight instead of worrying about all these other future trades.
Well, that's a mouthful there, and you're right. I didn't understand it, but again, it's about the styles of the coaches, the coaches' philosophy that they're going to, what kind of game they want to play. They're talking about it's a guard-oriented league now where everybody sits on the outside just shooting threes. But you're going to see the pendulum swing just like you're seeing it in the NFL, where a couple of years ago they said running backs don't matter, which is total bullshit. If you don't have a good running back or running backs and you don't have a good offensive line, a quarterback is almost worthless. Why pay a guy $30 million a year and not protect him? He plays half the season with broken arms and broken legs and concussions because you can't. I mean, look at what's happened to Andrew Luck when he got sacked 70 times in 1 year. It's like, you don't protect the guy, you don't give him the tools. You're going to see the same thing happen in the NBA. The center will come back, and they might do a little bit what Golden State did with that big guy in the playoffs. You drop him, you get the guys on the outside, and you drop the big guy down to the basket where the defense can't handle that motion as quickly, and you end up with a bunch of dunks, and it breaks up. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. You have to change it up, or your defense or the team you're playing is going to absolutely know what you're doing. So you got to play it up, break it down a little bit. And I think you're going to see a little bit more big man mixed in with the 3 points. The 3 points not going away, and the Seth Curry guys are not going away. Trae Young, show me you can do it in the pros. College is a whole different animal. There aren't too many Seth Currys in this world, so and I'm not gonna bet that Trae Young is one of them. I'm not saying he won't be good, but he's not going to be a Seth Curry. I doubt that very much. It was interesting to watch it last night, the draft, but the free agency is where it's at in the NBA right now. Who's getting who? Where's LeBron going? Where's CP3 going? All this. Where's George going? And all of that. That's going to make the difference for the foreseeable future. And who's going to challenge Golden State? Well, you're going to need one hell of a team to challenge Golden State. The only team that's going to beat Golden State is Golden State right now, and that's because of boredom. They get bored, and that's why they didn't have that greatest season in the regular season, but when they decide to play, nobody can play with it. So you're going to have to do something, and if there's a super team that has to be built in order to do that, you're going to need the LeBron and the George and the CP3 all getting on the same team somewhere, or somebody like those players. So, the draft is interesting. These kids coming out of college don't always make it. They get big paychecks, of course. That's good for them. But they're not all going to make it. They're not all going to be superstars. And if they are, it's generally not going to be the first year for most. Like you said, probably the best guy in the draft last year was the 13th pick. And that's probably the case again this year. I like the kid Doncic coming out of Europe, though. I thought that from what I could see and read, and I'm not a pro at that, at evaluating talent, I thought he was the best player in the draft. And, and I think Dallas is blessed to get him.
I would agree with you. You know, touching on a couple of things you just were discussing here, Jim. I tell you what, you talk about these free agents that are out there, and obviously the whole summer is going to revolve around LeBron from next weekend on when he can step away from the Cavs. I really think it makes total sense for him, if he can work it out, just to stay put there. I mean, they picked up a kid last night. I like this kid, Colin Sexton from Alabama. Everyone was criticizing him in terms of his shooting percentage, but he's a go-getter. He's an aggressive player. You have him. I mean, instead of Cleveland piecing things together, you know what? Let Cleveland be the team that gets a little aggressive. Okay, they're going to be, if LeBron stays put, obviously a major chunk of their salary cap is going on LeBron. But you just touched on a couple other free agents. Why can't Paul George, or why can't CP3 go there? And then, you know, you look at it, and you know, we know Boston's going to be a real tough team for a long time. We saw how good they were last year in the playoffs without Irving, without Gordon Hayward. But still, to me, the place that makes the most sense for LeBron, if he wants to stay, is Cleveland, and get a couple of pieces around him. I mean, the East is obviously not nearly as tough as the West. I mean, all this talk about LeBron going to Lakers, I mean, the Lakers, to me, are building a little bit of a nice team from the young players. I'm not saying you would turn your back on LeBron, but I mean, why are you going to get you think you're going to get like 3 of these super guys, you know, like the Heat did about 10 years ago? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't take that direction. And then you're still going to have to beat the Warriors, obviously. At some point in the playoffs, you're going to have to beat them in, you know, a second round or a third round or something. So I don't get it. I mean, I'm not there for all the financial stuff, but to me, if LeBron stays put in Cleveland and they've got a free agent or two around him, whether it's Kawhi Leonard, I don't know. But, you know, I mean, they'd have to trade to get him, but they could match salary stuff with the Spurs if that would happen. You know, to me, that's what he should do. I don't think you're going to have any team, whether it's the Lakers or whether it's the Rockets, they're going to have a, quote, super team that can knock off Golden State. You're 100% right there. Golden State's only going to lose, or to put it this way, they're not going to win another NBA title only if there's significant injuries or they really get bored and they get picked off. I mean, they played a little haphazardly in the Western Finals against Houston and almost got beat, obviously, in that series, having to come back to win that series. But, come on, all these teams are trying to build, quote, another Golden State. Well, you don't have the players Golden State has. I mean, they've got 2 of the 3 or 4 best players in the world, and they've got maybe the best pure shooter in Klay Thompson, whose name is not Steph Curry. So, I mean, teams don't have that talent. They should just build what they can. It gets competitive. And, I don't know, I guess if I'm in the Eastern Conference, I'm looking to build up a couple of people, because if LeBron takes off from Cleveland and heads out west, whether he goes to the Lakers or the Clippers or the Rockets, I mean, if I'm in the East, I'm taking a shot. I mean, Boston's a nice team, but heck, if you're Washington or you're maybe even Miami, you know what? Get a couple of free agents there, build it up, and have your own little super team. But anyway, back to the draft for 1 second. The other guy that I like, and you talked about centers, I like the kid that Orlando took, Mo Bamba. To me, in the top 10, that was kind of my favorite pick. I know he needs a lot of fine-tuning on offense, but I just wanted to throw that in there. I like this kid. Well-spoken guy. Everyone talk about his 7'10" wingspan, but he plays hard, and I think he's going to be one of these guys that improves over time. So if anyone winds up listening to this way down the road, out of the top 10 picks, the Slovenian kid Doncic, and I think Mo Bamba at Orlando are going to be, I think, the 2 best players to come out of the early part of this NBA draft.
Well, we're going to hold you to that, Joe. You know, you mentioned briefly Kawhi Leonard. That is a mystery. I don't know if that kid's, he's a man, he's not a kid, but his head's on straight. I don't know. There's strange things going on there. It's been a very strange year. I don't think anybody really knows what's happening inside his mind, and but whatever happens there, I mean, that's a great basketball player. You got some free agents out there that could make one hell of a team if you can figure out how to put them together. But if LeBron leaves the East, it's wide open, and probably the best team in the East, especially if Hayward and Irving stay. Boston would probably be the team I would look to win the East. And then it's kind of it's not a free roll, but it's almost a free roll to get to the championship if you can win the East, because it's softer, and it's just like the NFC in football is stronger than the AFC, and so you have a softer route to get to the championship. And if LeBron goes west, now he's going to be in for a battle, because there's some tough teams out there that he's going to have to figure out. Baseball is rounding out. I mean, I had a bad week in baseball. I picked up 2 wins last night, but overall for the previous 4 or 5 days, it's been rocky for me. But that happens when you're gambling every day and you're analyzing every day. You're going to run into bad streaks, and that's the one thing about people that say, "Oh, I want to be a handicapper, or I want to bet professionally," and now you have legalized gaming around the country. The one thing I have to say to everybody that has that in mind is your ability to overcome bad streaks is probably the single most important thing that you're going to have, and that's mental strength and fortitude. So, I mean, you can go on week after week after week, and then all of a sudden can't pick a winner. That's part of the game, because it's like a dice table. You never know what's going to come out of those ivories when you throw them down on the table. So it happens. But anyway, be that as it may, baseball is rounding into shape. We had a couple big favorites go down the other night. Sale loses, Verlander loses. So be careful laying those 3-1s.
That's for sure. You know what? The word that I've seen in print, and I have said it for years, baseball is a grind. I mean, maybe you could say that of any sport. Well, let's face it, you're talking 162-game season. It's a grind, and if you're in there every day, handicapping as you are, as I am, getting involved, you know what? To me, at the end of the year, obviously you want to make money, but you also want to avoid those really horrid losing streaks. But a friend of mine taught me this a long time, and it's really true in baseball. Forget the gambling part of it for 1 second. You could be the worst team in baseball. You could be this year's Chicago White Sox, let's say. You know what? You're going to go on a 7 or 10-game winning streak at some point between April and September. Same with the good teams. You could be, listen, the Yankees, they're winning games. I mean, it's a joke now. They pulled the way they pull some of these games out. And, I mean, they were 9-9, and now they've won, 41 out of 54. Let me tell you, they're going to have a week or two, whether it's in July or August or whatever. The Yanks are going to lose, 7 out of 8, 9 out of 10. It happens to everybody. The key to the whole thing, at least in my way of looking at it with baseball wagering and handicapping, stay away from more than a couple of lengthy losing streaks. If you have 1 or 2, just like baseball teams, like we say, it's going to happen. But, if you wind up going through, say the month of August, and, you've got 4 winning days out of, say you play 28 days, you got to stay away from that. But it is a grind. And I mean, you're just talking about big favorites, big underdogs. I mean, it's very tough to obviously make a dime on guys like Scherzer or Verlander who are laying 280, 300, and stuff like that. I extended it over time to kind of stay away from those games. Once in a while, I pop in and grab a dog and just hope to have things land my way. But, more often than not, I'm looking at
one of the ways you can play big favorites if you want to do it, and you think in a certain time of year, these hot pitchers, especially in the warm weather, they will go on streaks when they just knock everybody off. Instead of laying 3-1 or 250 or even 190 on a team, you might take 3 or 4 of these big favorites in a day and just parlay them. Put $100 on a 14 parlay with big favorites. It's not going to pay much, but you're not going to break your own bankroll if they start going down on you. So that's one way to do it, or bet them in the first 5 innings. But even that's going to be expensive if you're laying a 3-1. So it's a very difficult proposition when you're dealing with these big money lines. You have to find a way around it. I don't play them. I never play them. I try to find ways to beat them, and that's part of the reason I had a little bit of a losing streak. But they started winning, and I was trying to beat some of them. And I'm getting great prices, but the great prices, it helps you. You're not losing too much, but it also, you don't win too often either sometimes. But if you go 1-1 and you're taking 150, you made a little bit of money doing that way. So it's all about the dollar sign. It's not about the winning percentage in baseball as it is in a point spread type sport. Joe, we're running into time constraints here again. Anything in closing you want to touch? We got a couple minutes.
Well, again, I mean, we started talking about it last week. We're a little bit out, obviously, from football, but as we see, we've got some major football stories that are going to impact the landscape, with the latest being Jameis Winston. It's funny because you and I last week, Jim, were talking about the NFC South and talking about how that could be a division that, I mean, last year had 3 double-digit win teams that could flip-flop around. Well, if Jameis Winston is out for those 3 games, and now I'm hearing maybe even more, that obviously has a big impact on things, and you do start to wonder about a guy like that, his 4th year in his career. Last year just didn't seem to take off. I mean, I'm discussing this now because we've been talking about looking at the over-unders for team wins, which is such a popular way to go for many handicappers. And if people saw it, I'm sure they did at this point, the first 3 games for the Bucs schedule is not easy. They're playing the Saints and the Steelers and the Eagles. So, I mean, if they wind up having to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick, if they don't get an upgrade there at quarterback, they're 0-3 out of the gate, and their season is just about done. So, obviously that's front and center news today, but people should keep their eyes on those kinds of things. We don't every day get a quarterback who's suspended for a handful of games or whatever. I mean, we had a Tom Brady situation a couple of years ago. But again, if you're looking at over-unders and things like that, you better digest everything and, take into account team schedules and all this other stuff. Before you know it, the football season will be here, and we'll shape everything up when we get there. But again, it's looking like the Tampa Bay Bucs season may be over before it even began, and that'd be a shame for those fans.
Now, of course, it happened last year to Dallas with Elliott being suspended. So it can happen, and injuries happen. And if you're going to bet a team over 9 wins or 8 wins or 10 wins, whatever, you better know who their backup quarterback is, because one bump on that quarterback can make a big difference to your wager. But if you lose an offensive lineman, that can make a big difference too, especially on the blind side of a right-handed quarterback. So you got to keep your eyes open. You got to do some depth work, deeper dives into these teams. Joe, we'll do some football next week if that's okay. And
that sounds pretty.
Have a great weekend. Thank you for your time, and everybody out there, thank you for listening.
All right, try to stay cool.
All right. Stay in the house. That's the only way.